The store manager slammed his hands on the counter, his face twisted in anger. "I'm sick of you people thinking you can just walk in here and do whatever you want." Jamal's fists clenched, his breathing sharp. "I didn't steal anything." The manager laughed coldly. "Yeah, then empty your pockets, prove it." Jamal's eyes burned with fury. "You're only doing this because I'm black." The manager smirked, pulling out his phone. "We'll see what the cops think about that." Sirens scream in the distance. What happens next? The small grocery store was dimly lit, its flickering fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across the aisles. The scent of stale bread and cleaning chemicals hung in the air, mixing with the faint hum of the refrigerator units lining the back wall. It was just another convenience store in the middle of the city, the kind that most people passed without a second thought. But for Jamal Turner, this place represented something different. It was a routine stop, a place where he'd been 100 times before, and yet tonight, everything was about to change. Jamal was 26 years old, sharp-minded and determined, someone who had spent his entire life fighting against a system designed to push him down. He had grown up in South Side Chicago, in a neighborhood where opportunity felt like a distant dream. His mother, Monique, had worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table, while his father, a man Jamal barely remembered, had disappeared before his 5th birthday. But Jamal had refused to be another statistic. He worked harder than anyone else, studied late into the night, and pushed himself until he earned a full-ride scholarship to a top university. He had done everything right, played by the rules, stayed out of trouble, proved himself over and over again. And yet, no matter how much he accomplished, nights like this reminded him that, to some people, he would always just be another black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. The store wasn't busy. It never was this late at night. The only sounds came from the quiet rustling of plastic bags as the cashier, a teenage kid with oversized headphones, scrolled through his phone behind the counter. Jamal had stopped in to grab a few things, milk, cereal, and a bottle of water. Nothing out of the ordinary. But from the moment he walked in, he felt it. The shift in the air, the subtle tension. And when he turned toward the register, he saw the reason why. Behind the counter stood Mr. Carlson, the store manager. A man in his late 50s, thin, balding, with deep-set eyes that never hid what he was thinking. Jamal had dealt with him before. The man didn't like him. He never said it outright, but it was always there. The suspicious glances, the way he'd hover near the security monitors whenever Jamal walked in. Jamal had ignored it. Until tonight. Jamal grabbed his items and approached the register. The moment he stepped up, Carlson stiffened. His eyes flickered toward Jamal's hands, scanning him like a threat. Jamal let out a slow breath, already knowing where this was going. Still, he kept his voice even. "Just these." Carlson didn't respond. Instead, he folded his arms, narrowing his eyes. "Where's the rest of it?" Jamal frowned. "What?" Carlson motioned toward his hoodie. "Don't play dumb. Empty your pockets." A sharp, uncomfortable silence filled the space. Jamal's grip on the counter tightened. "I don't have anything in my pockets." Carlson chuckled, the sound low and condescending. "Oh, sure. And I guess the security footage will back you up, huh?" Jamal's pulse ticked higher. He knew where this was going. He had seen it happen to other people. On the news, on social media, but tonight it was happening to him. Carlson wasn't asking. He was accusing. Jamal took a slow step back, trying to control the rising anger boiling in his chest. "I didn't steal anything." Carlson's smirk deepened. "Then prove it. Empty your pockets." Jamal exhaled sharply. This wasn't about the items. It never was. This was about power, humiliation. Carlson wanted to make him feel small, feel helpless. Jamal's jaw clenched. His entire life he had worked to prove himself. And still, moments like these reminded him that none of it mattered. To some people, he would always be guilty first. He glanced around the store. The cashier was watching now, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene. A middle-aged woman by the snack aisle quickly turned away, pretending she hadn't heard anything. And Jamal realized something. No one was going to stand up for him. He had two choices. Back down. Let Carlson humiliate him. Let him flex his authority in front of the entire store. Let him win, or stand his ground. Jamal lifted his chin, his voice strong and unshaken. "You're only doing this because I'm black." Carlson's smirk froze. A beat of silence stretched between them. Then Carlson's face twisted with anger. "Excuse me?" Jamal didn't move. "You heard me." His voice was sharp now, cutting through the air like steel. "You wouldn't have said a damn thing if I looked different. But the second I walk in here, you think I'm a thief." Carlson scoffed, his face red with fury. "Don't pull that card with me. You people—" He stopped himself, but it was too late. The room went still. Jamal took a slow step forward, voice dropping low, dangerous, controlled. "Finish that sentence." Carlson hesitated, but the damage was done. Jamal could hear the cashier muttering something under his breath. The woman in the snack aisle was suddenly staring, eyes wide with shock. And that's when Carlson made his second mistake. He pulled out his phone. "We'll see what the cops think about that." Jamal's stomach tightened. He could hear it now, the distant sound of sirens. Someone had already called, and in that moment he knew. He was out of time. The sirens were growing louder. Jamal's pulse thundered in his ears, but he refused to look away from Carlson. The store manager was still smirking, his phone held high as if it were a weapon. "You think you're some kind of victim?" Carlson scoffed. "This isn't about race. It's about theft." Jamal's jaw clenched. "I didn't steal anything." Carlson took a slow step forward, lowering his voice, his smirk deepening. "Then you won't mind waiting here until the cops arrive." Jamal's breath hitched. This was a setup. He had seen too many stories end this way. A misunderstanding, a false accusation, a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. And by the time the truth came out, it was too late. His stomach twisted. The cashier was still frozen behind the counter, eyes darting between them, unsure of what to do. The woman in the snack aisle had pulled out her phone but wasn't speaking up. And then, Carlson reached under the counter. Jamal stiffened. A sinking, nauseating feeling hit him as he saw what was in the manager's hand. A gun. The weight of the moment crashed down on him. Carlson wasn't pointing it at him, not yet, but the message was clear. Stay put. Don't move, or else. Jamal's heart pounded as his mind raced through every option. If he ran, he'd look guilty. If he stayed, he'd be at the mercy of a man who already saw him as a criminal. Either way, he knew how this ended. A mugshot, a news headline, a life ruined. And then it happened. The front doors swung open and two cops stormed in. "On the ground! Hands where we can see them!" Jamal didn't move, didn't even breathe. Carlson pointed straight at him. "That's him!" He was stealing. The officers rushed forward. "Down on your knees! Now!" Jamal's muscles locked. "No!" he said, his voice shaking with restrained fury. "I didn't do anything." One of the cops hesitated. The other wasn't listening. His hand was already reaching for his gun. Jamal's body screamed at him to do something, anything. But one wrong move could mean the end. His fists clenched. His breathing grew shallow. Every instinct told him to fight back, to resist. Then a voice cut through the chaos. "Wait!" All heads turned. The cashier. His hands were shaking, but his voice was loud. "I saw everything. He didn't steal." Carlson whipped around, his face pale. "What did you just say?" The kid swallowed hard but didn't back down. "Jamal didn't take anything. He was just trying to pay when you accused him." The officer's grip on his holster eased slightly. "Is that true?" Jamal's chest rose and fell rapidly. Finally, someone was standing up for him. Carlson's face turned beet red. "This is ridiculous. I saw him put something in his pocket." The cop frowned, looking at the cashier. "Did you?" The kid shook his head. "No, nothing." Carlson's breath hitched. The lie was unraveling. One of the officers turned to Jamal. "Sir, do you have anything on you?" Jamal reached into his pockets, slowly, and turned them inside out. Empty. Silence. The realization hit everyone at once. Carlson had lied. One officer turned to Carlson. "You said you had security footage. Let's see it." Carlson's throat bobbed. His fingers twitched. The system is down." A thick silence filled the room. The cops exchanged looks. "Right," one of them muttered. "Convenient." Carlson's face was draining of color. Jamal let out a shaky breath. For the first time tonight, he wasn't the one on trial. The cops stepped back. One of them turned to Jamal. "You're free to go, sir." The words hit like a wave. Jamal almost didn't believe it, but when he looked up, Carlson wasn't smirking anymore. The manager was still standing, but he had already lost. Then a new voice cut in. "We're not done." Jamal turned. The woman from the snack aisle had stepped forward, her phone raised. "I recorded everything," she said, voice steady, "and I think his boss is going to want to see this." Carlson's mouth fell open. For the first time, he was the one trapped. Carlson's eyes darted to the cops. I didn't mean—" "You lied," the officer said coldly. "You wasted police time, and you nearly cost this man his life." Carlson took a step back. It was a misunderstanding." The cop shook his head. "We'll let corporate decide that." Jamal let out a slow, deep breath. The weight of the moment crashed down on him. He wasn't the one being taken away. Carlson was. The officer turned to the woman. "Send us that footage." She nodded. Carlson opened his mouth to argue, but no one was listening anymore. He was nothing now. The cop gestured toward the front doors. "Come on, Carlson." "Let's go." And just like that, he was gone. Jamal stood there, chest rising and falling. It was over. The woman pocketed her phone and turned to him. "You okay?" Jamal swallowed, his throat dry. He had almost lost everything tonight, but now he was still standing. "I'm good," he said finally. She nodded. "Good." Then with a small, knowing smile, she added, "Next time, don't let them tell you who you are." Jamal's breath hitched. For the first time all night, he smiled, and then, without another word, he walked out. Jamal stepped out of the store, the cold night air hitting his face like a sudden wake-up call. He took a deep breath, trying to slow the thunderous beat of his heart. It was over. But the weight of the moment still pressed against his chest. Tonight he had come seconds away from losing everything. A false accusation, a gun pointed in his direction, cops ready to believe the worst, all because of a man who saw him as guilty before he even spoke. Jamal glanced over his shoulder. Through the store window, he could see Carlson being led away by the police. The same fear that had been in Jamal's eyes minutes ago was now in Carlson's. For the first time, the man who had spent years abusing his power had none. Justice? Maybe. But it didn't feel like a victory, because this wasn't just about Carlson. It was about every person who had ever been in Jamal's position, every black man who had been stopped, questioned, followed, doubted, for nothing. Jamal exhaled slowly. This time he had walked away, but he knew the next person might not be so lucky. The next morning, Jamal woke up to something unexpected. His phone was blowing up. Hundreds of missed calls, thousands of notifications. He frowned, unlocking his screen, and then his breath caught in his throat. The video. The woman in the store had uploaded it, and it had gone viral. Millions of views. The world had seen everything. The racial profiling, the false accusation, the abuse of power. And now, people were furious. News stations were covering it. Civil rights groups were demanding action. The Grandview grocery chain had already issued a statement, apologizing for Carlson's actions. And then the biggest shock of all. The CEO himself called. Jamal stared at the unknown number flashing on his screen. His fingers hovered over the answer button. For years, he had watched these moments happen to others, watched people fight back, demand justice. Now, it was his turn. He took a deep breath, then answered. Jamal Turner speaking. Silence, then a voice, calm, measured, careful. Mr. Turner, I believe we owe you a conversation. Jamal's lips curled into a smirk. Yeah, I believe you do. Justice isn't about what you know. It's about what you refuse to accept. Jamal could have backed down. He could have let Carlson win, let the world define him by their assumptions. But he stood his ground. And because of that, the truth came out. Because the truth always does. Have you ever faced discrimination? How did you handle it? Tell us in the comments. What would you have done in Jamal's place? Should Carlson have faced worse consequences? Watch until the end to see how one moment can change everything. Like this video if you believe in standing up for what's right. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more powerful stories that inspire change.